Nestled within the charming Fontainebleau, renowned for the scenic forest that Parisians frequent over the weekends, lies the 19th arrondissement of Paris. Residents of this quaint part of Paris live a quiet life, for the most part. But on the morning of May 5, 1986, the people of the 19th arrondissement woke up to a horror that shook up their peaceful world. Cecile Bloch was a cheerful 11-year-old who enjoyed school as much as any other child in her neighborhood. On the morning of May 5, 1986, Cecile was getting ready to go to school. She usually left by herself. After leaving her home, she entered the building elevator to go down. This was the last time anyone had seen her. Cecile's mother, Suzanne, usually leaves for work after her children go to school, and calls home in the afternoon to check up on her daughter. But on that day, Cecile did not answer her mother's phone call. Suzanne was understandably concerned about her daughter, so she called her apartment building security to check on her. The security guards started searching the building for Cecile, but could not find her anywhere in the living quarters. Having searched the entire building, the guards decided to search the third level of the basement where there was a disused storage room for maintenance. They had not expected to find anything out of the ordinary. But to their horror, they found Cecile's lifeless body lying half-naked on her stomach, under an old carpet. The guards immediately called the police and informed Cecile's parents about the discovery. Investigators arrived at the scene and scoured the building for clues. They noticed that Cecile was raped, stabbed and strangled to death. They could not find any useful fingerprints. However, they did find some sand in her school bag and on her clothes, and they also found a semen stain on the girl's thigh. The elevator, they noticed, only went as far down as the second level of the basement. And one would have had to walk down the stairs to reach the third level. Clearly, the killer knew the layout of the building well enough to know this. Even though the Blochs were devastated by the death of their child, Cecile's father Jean-Pierre was determined to help investigators find his daughter's killer. Jean-Pierre remembered that he had noticed something unusual the day before the murder. He noticed that the access door to the third basement level was left open, blocked by a pack of cigarettes. He did not find it alarming enough then to report it, but in hindsight, it struck him as odd. Several residents of the building, including some of Cecile's family members, remembered seeing a strange man in the elevator previously. Based on the residents' descriptions, a composite sketch was made. The stranger was about 6 feet tall, between 25 to 30 years old, with brown hair. He was dressed in a jacket, sneakers and jeans. He spoke French without an accent, and was unusually polite in a sarcastic manner. He was almost passive-aggressive in his attitude. What really stood out about this man was his face, which was heavily pockmarked, probably due to a skin disease. What followed for Jean-Pierre and his family in the coming days was more despair, as the legal procedure to find and indict a suspect was going ahead without any meaningful progress. This frustrated Jean-Pierre, who pleaded with the local authorities to do more, but he was dismissed and was told that the death of his daughter was not his concern anymore, but that of the state. By the end of 1986, Cecile's half-brother, Luc, even tried to persuade the police to start using the newly developed DNA tracing method to find the killer. The presiding judge of Cecile's case refused to take any of the family's suggestions, claiming that they did not even have a lawyer to represent them. In the years that followed, this gross incompetence continued even after Cecile's case was passed on to 2 other judges, who were just as unhelpful as their predecessors. To add to the Bloch family's despair, in 1989, Cecile's mother tragically died in an accident. Cecile Bloch's case would remain closed for the next 7 years. Many more victims who were raped and murdered between 1986 and 1994 were later attributed to the Pockmarked Killer. Another murder that took place a month before Cecile's, on April 7 of 1986, is thought to have been committed by the same killer. The police made the connection, as 8-year-old Sarah was killed in the same way as Cecile was, strangled to death. Since then, there have been multiple murders in which police have found similarities. Some of them are the double murder of airport mechanic Gilles Politi and Irmgard Muller, his German au pair. The two were killed on the night of April 29, 1987. Gilles' corpse was lying naked on his stomach on his bed in his room, feet and hands tied in the back, seemingly strangled. Irmgard was Gilles' babysitter, and she was found crucified nude in a bunk bed in another room, with her throat cut. Both of them had semen on their thighs, and traces of cigarette burns were present on both bodies. On April 29, 1994, early in the afternoon in Seine-et-Marne, 11-year-old Ingrid was riding her bicycle. The pockmarked killer approached her, presented himself as a policeman, and then under bogus charges proceeded to handcuff her. He then brought her to his car and took her to an abandoned farm called Villeras in Essonne, where she was tied to a radiator. She was raped and strangled, and she was pronounced dead later that day. The only clue was a semen stain that was found on a Kleenex. Karina Leroy was 19 when she disappeared at the foot of the city of Beauval, in Meaux, on June 9, 1994. 3 days later, her body was discovered in the nearby woods. DNA analysis revealed that this was the work of the pockmarked killer. He is also believed to have raped and attacked the following women: 11-year-old Nathalie, 26-year-old Andrea, 29-year-old Laurie, 14-year-old Marianne and 11-year-old Ingrid. The tragic deaths of all these women were tied to the same killer who has evaded capture for the last 3 decades. Despite having the killer's DNA and a relatively good composite sketch to go by, the police were never able to find the killer, let alone identify him. Although the police have DNA, fingerprints and a good composite sketch to refer to, it has been more than 26 years since the last known attack by the pockmarked killer. 7 investigative judges have already presided over the Cecile Bloch's case without ever attaching a name to the suspect. It is believed that the killer would have assimilated himself within the populace of Paris by now, hiding in plain sight, as a normal functioning member of society. Criminal psychologist Michel Agripart-Delmas said that the killer's pockmarked skin could come from treatment with antipsychotics, sedatives or toxic substances. She also said that to impress his victims, he used a police ID card, spoke police jargon and was usually seen holding a walkie-talkie. He then threatened the victim with a handgun and handcuffs. The assumption that the killer is, or was an officer, had been considered. He bore some similarity to the East Area Rapist or the original Night Stalker from the US. Both suffered from sexual urges repressed due to physical insecurities, both being possibly cops and having knowledge of police jargon and techniques. And both having raped and murdered their victims. It seems that the pockmarked killer may or may not have had some knowledge of the East Area Rapist, or was possibly inspired not only by the East Area Rapist, but also by other serial killers like Alain Lamare, Michel Fournier, and the Zodiac Killer. Since 1995, the crimes of the pockmarked killer had stopped and the investigators are yet to discover his true identity and where he is. However, the gendarmerie are still linking several unresolved murders between the late 80s to 2000s to the pockmarked killer, though they have yet to confirm nor deny any links so far. In 2015, the French police reopened the Pockmarked case by the order of Judge Nathalie Turquay, looking for clues for his identity. He is now rumored to be in his 50s and 60s, may not have his pockmarks and may have started a family. The investigation is ongoing and the killer might still be caught. What are your thoughts on the case of the pockmarked killer of Paris? Do you think after all these years, he would be caught? Thank you for watching and we hope you found our video interesting. Like, comment and subscribe for more fascinating unsolved mysteries.